Hi, I am Brooke McDowell, and I'm doing my assignment number 9 video with race, class, access, gender, and equity, although it's more about leadership across cultures and a more inclusive leadership. So thanks for watching. My first video that I found was called Leading Across Cultural Barriers by Maureen Bridget Robotin, who is a global executive and a leadership coach. And what she talked about how leadership is about learning, and leadership is about the flow of information and energy in an organization. And when you lead, you need to create the right environment. And we need to always know that there's going to have to be change involved in that. She talked about how there are basically 6 words that we need to associate with leadership. We need to have authentic communication, courage, and commitment, which will lead to accountability. If you are committed to the business and to everyone, then you will create that I can count on you aspect. Your employees, your constituents know that you are committed to them, that they can count on you, and in turn, they will be accountable for you. But you also have to have courage to communicate with them. It's very important to have clear communication. Also, she says it's very important to be inspirational, and that needs to be energizing. When you are energizing, you can light a fire in the heart, and that can be felt through your emotions and through empathy. We need to be able to look at the world through other people's perspectives and to be engaged. When your counterparts know that you are energized and empathetic with them, then they will be engaged. Again, it goes back to what we talked about in our chapters, that they have to know that you care and you have to build that relationship. If you are doing that, then you are going to be able to meet the challenges. She said there are 3 parts to meeting challenges. First part is with your head. You need to be able to think things through and meet the challenges with your head, but that will lead to making changes with courage, and all of that comes to part with compassion. So we need to use our head, we need to have courage and lead with our heart, like we've talked about, and have compassion. The last thing that she talked about was how we need to transfer the power. We talked about before in one of our earlier chapters about ego and how we shouldn't lead with ego. Well, everybody has ego. It just needs to keep that in check a little bit. So when we talk about that, we just need to make sure that one of the things the quotes that I pulled was our paradox of power. And I thought that tied very well into this video clip. It said that leaders accept and act on the paradox of power. When you give, you become more powerful when you give your power away. When you are a good leader across cultures, you give that credit to others. You make sure that they know that they are appreciated and you empower them. Okay, so that's very, very important to transfer the power, be inspirational and energize, and to give credit. And she also made sure that we kind of knew the difference between a manager, a leader, and a global leader. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and you can watch that in the video. But one of the things that a global leader looks at is, how do you shift? What do I need to do to shift in me to enable them to shift? What is it that I can do to help to shape them, be more of a sculptor or a gardener? Kind of an interesting video that she talks about. The second video that I found was called The Business Case for Diverse Leadership and it was an interview with Sally Krawcheck, and she has an organization called 85 Broads. It's a women's organization and how women can become great leaders. And she said that women actually in leadership kind of sometimes are behind, and we don't get as much feedback from our male counterparts. So we need to seek that feedback. We've talked about feedback in our chapters and how important it is, but it's really important that, especially as women in the workforce, we ask for that feedback because we may not get it as much. And it's important to seek criticism. Those who seek criticism actually rise faster in the workplace. And when you seek feedback and criticism from others, it actually gives them a stake in you. And they're going to then be there for you and know that they can help you out and that you are committed to them. One of the things that she also talks about is how important networking is. Networking is such a valuable tool, and especially when we look at cultures, we need to seek out different cultures. We need to seek out those different counterparts that we have. And when you're networking, it's very important to give more than you receive. When you give first, then you will receive things back. And like we talked about in our chapters, it's important that you figure out what it is that you can give them, what's important to them. If others know you genuinely care about them, they're more likely to care about you. And this is one important way that you bridge culture divides. So as you're networking, as you're reaching out to other cultures, other companies, or even within your company, make sure that you know what is important to them so that you can give gifts and then they will give them back to you. Because oftentimes it's not necessarily as much what you know anymore, but it's who you know. When we do that, we can again gain more diversity. And the benefit of diversity is just that. It is diversity. So you gain more aspects, you gain more visions, more views. And that's very, very important. And again, that ties back to networking. When we get more diversity, we can end up with more networking, because she says that the number one unwritten rule for business success is networking. And it's very, very important as we are building our diverse teams. Diverse teams actually, we have higher returns, lower volatility, more client focus. More diverse teams outperform other people. So it's very, very important that we have those diverse aspects of our company, and that comes from the top down. We need to make sure that we set the tone from the top, she says, and encourage other people, encourage our group to think differently, encourage them. Even though we can be tight-knit, they used to think that you couldn't be tight-knit and be diverse, but you can be tight-knit, you can be close, as long as you're willing to question others, you're willing to debate, you're willing to look for that feedback. So it's very important that you have a specific tone from the top that looks for those that diversity and encouragement. Encourage the debate. Don't shut people down or cut them off. Make sure that you look for the quality. So how can we apply some of these aspects that we've learned about into inclusive leadership? And I am a classroom teacher, hopefully looking towards to being a building leader or principal. So what sort of aspects can I apply that we've talked about into my future? Well, the first thing that we talked about that I think is very, very important is modeling the way and setting the examples. One quote that we found is, sometimes the greatest distance you have to travel is the distance from your mouth to your feet. It's very important that you show others how important they are, and you set the cultural language in your classroom. You want to avoid biases. You want to have everybody to feel safe. Watch your language. Watch what it is that you're saying, how you say it. Make sure that it is appropriate for everyone. Practice positive communication. We know how important communication is, but more importantly, positive communications. People actually remember downbeat comments far more often and in greater detail than the positive ones. So we need to remember the 3-to-1 ratio. We need to have 3 positive, encouraging comments for every 1 negative. Now that doesn't mean that we can't seek criticism, because criticism and give criticism, it's helpful, but we need to remember that we need to give those positive comments also. And that's a standard that we need to set within our classroom and within our building, that with our teachers and our students. And envision the future. The Janus effect is very interesting to me, that we need to, one was looking forward and one was looking backwards. And looking backwards can actually enable us to see farther than if you stare straight ahead. And this is something that I want to work on, especially this year with my students. And I think it's very important as a staff also, that reflection. I want to have my students do some journaling this year and make sure that we are reflecting. What is it that you did? What works well? What can you try differently next time? And that openness, that communication, that reflection can help us to create that safety in that relationship that we have. We want to foster collaboration. Make sure that we have that climate of trust. If we get to know each other, we get to know our students, we get to know our staff that we work with, then they are going to be more likely to trust. We have to give trust first before we will get it. So we need to make sure that they know that we trust them. The norm of reciprocity, I can't say that word very good, but they will reciprocate. Okay, when we help others succeed and help them shine, they're going to not forget it, and they're going to be more willing to return. And that's something that we want to set up in our classroom, in our building, and make sure that they're able to foster that. Strengthen others. Give them choices. How can we, what is a way that you guys can do this project? How can you work together? What can you do to make this work? Enable them to lead themselves. We have to set up that standard. We have to allow the students to know that they can do it, but we have to give them that opportunity. If we are one of those kind of old-fashioned teachers and we just do it by the book from the front of the classroom, that's going to be a lot harder. But we have to be able to give that to have everyone to be included. And again, the most important, I think, is back to the encouraging the heart. Self-fulfilling prophecies are so true. If we don't believe in our students, they're not going to believe in themselves. And if they don't believe in themselves, then that's what's going to happen. So we need to make sure that we allow them to be successful by believing in them. Again, back to that 3-to-1 feedback. Feedback is very, very important, but we need to make sure we give that. We also want to recognize people the way that they want to be recognized. This was pointed out in the YouTube video that we watched. And make sure that we get to know them, get to know everybody. I know when I get back to school, my janitor loves Diet Mountain Dew. I'm going to give her a thank you of Diet Mountain Dew for all the things that she does, all the things that she does for us, because she's painted my room, she's done a lot of great things. Another thing that I took note of this chapter was the cheer tickets. I think that this is really cool way for kids to learn how to give compliments and to give props to other people, that they can hand out the tickets. Sometimes our kids don't know how to do things like that. They don't know how. They haven't been given the opportunity, and we need to allow them to do this. I love the aspects of staff sharing that with each other too. We have a very small staff in the school that I work in, but I think that also would be a great way to learn from other people. Give those cheer tickets. So what are some challenges that we see? Well, first of all, we all know in education that we are in a time crunch. And a lot of times in the back of our head, we think, well, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to mold those values. Well, it's the opposite. If we take the time, we will earn the time back tenfold. But we have to get over that hump and that thinking. We also have to get out of our box. We can't be a lecture teacher from the front of the classroom. We have to give the power back to our students, back to our counterparts, so that they have the opportunity to learn and grow also. And I think that one of the other challenges is, sometimes our kids are overwhelmed and they don't have the ability or feel that they have the ability to fail with GPAs and salutatorians and all the pressure that they may feel from their parents or from other things. They don't feel that they have the ability to fail, and failure is so important. So we need to set up that culture so that they know that failure is what actually breeds success. And those challenges need to be sought so that we can have more of a inclusive culture in our school. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your project.